Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Code Chronicles. It is your lovely host, Pags. We are, I believe, on episode 39. We just blasted straight through the last episode, which was debugging, handling issues, roughly introducing more people and paying gratitude and respect to the journey of the Code Chronicles. Excuse me, I just drank a bunch of water, coffee, and ate a bunch of watermelons. So I have no idea what the stomach's doing right now. But let's get back to the task manager. I figured out the bug. I handled it. Got a cheeky way to fix it. I'm not going to disclose how I did it yet because there's privacy associated to it. But I will disclose it on my software engineering course on how I handled this bug and just the way of thinking around it. I do believe it was very clever and very cheeky. But anyway, if you want to support me and check out the software engineering program, it is going to be in the description below. The goal is $2 a day, a affordable way to learn at least what I've learned as an enterprise software engineer. So, especially on the front end stack, that is going to be key. You could definitely do $2 a day for you know what I mean, very, very, very strong knowledge, right? Like literally, and obviously do what you want with your money. But I have zero shame in plugging myself, wanting to do this full time, wanting to be a teacher and educator, right? I also have no problem handing off free material out the wazoo. But I'll tell a little story about my journey to becoming a six-figure software engineer or having opportunity to six-figure opportunities, right? I might have spent like maybe $1,200 in total, like maybe. And I'm not saying that to brag or something like that. I'm saying that genuinely as like education in this environment is going to be your number one tool, right? But I've spent lost tens of thousands of dollars trying to be a professional musician. You know what I mean? You go to college, I dropped, I don't know, maybe 80 to 100 grand on just school, if not more, right? Yeah, and then it's like the funniest thing, like software, I like might have spent like $900 on courses, like maybe like $200 on a little mentor, $30 a month subscriptions, $50 a month subscriptions. And then, fast forward however much time, ended up landing my first multiple six-figure offers. And it was just like, dang, like, are you kidding me? So I'm trying all this other stuff, investing tens of thousands of dollars, waiting years to graduate college, It's like for a few bucks a month, you could literally, you know what I mean, put yourself in front of really strong opportunities. So in respect to myself and future self, that's why I want to build this program and build it out proper and be an educator. And I have zero shame, right, in trying to up my education as well the entire time. I have zero shame in it. I think that's the name of the game. But anyway, so let's dive into today's episode. We have these chart components working again. We have all of our stuff. We have some kind of bug here on the left. I don't want to handle it today. We just did a debugging episode. As you can see, we also have a bug here associated with, I think, navigation. Either that or my computer's lagging, one of the two. But here's the hover effect that I was talking about in the last episode. We can see it live now. We can see all of our task cards as well. We do have some minor bugs, some reactivity issues that we want to handle, but they're not core to the functionality. The core functionality is still working, right? We can add columns, we can add tasks, we can update them, we can move them from columns. The thing I want to focus on today is building out our users, right? We want to have our users now to be able to log into the application and genuinely see their own dashboards, see their own tasks, associate everything that we have with our own task, right? So I'm going to pop this off screen just to double check, make sure everything's where it needs to be. Okay. Okay, so let's build out the users. We have a user ID that we need, and a user is going to have tasks associated with them, and I believe projects by the end of it, maybe teams and a few other things. But we do want to look at task initially. Sorry guys, I also didn't mean to come off too salesy on the what's it called, on pitching the course. But end of the day, I really do want to do this as a full-time gig, right? And I have nothing to hide, right? Like that's the biggest thing. I have no shame in it. I have nothing to hide. It's like, yes, I do want to provide value for value in return. I think that's perfectly healthy. And then I could literally do this full time. You know what I mean? Then I can hone on the software program even more. Then I could build out even more stuff. I can have AWS courses, HTML courses, CSS, JavaScript courses, React specific courses, Vue specific courses. I could offload MongoDB as a document storage, some Docker course, right? Like there's a lot that I can offload to Cypress course on testing. And the thing I have now is I have to balance it with work, still doing projects for other companies and stuff like that. And I enjoy that as well. But if I had it my way, I would rather just do the Code Chronicles and build courses like 100%, 1,000,000%. You know what I mean? It would be so fun to just educate and get criticism and like learn how people want to be educated better. Hey, can you break this down better? Can you take a different approach? Can you make 4 different angles on this one concept? I would be happy to like just dive into that. That would be so fun. And that's why I really enjoy this, because I feel like I get to educate, narrate, and create. And people are still even chiming in saying, hey, do this, try that. So this is probably my most enjoyable part of software engineering, at least right now. So let's think about how we want to do users. We tried this a little bit early on. So how about this? Before making the relationship between task and users, let's just build users, right? Let's just go to our dashboard. Let's make a button. Oh yeah, the computer's lagging a bit. Uh-oh. So we want to create user, and we just want to see them in our database. That's all. So let's say on click. Let's see, boom. Import. We will say user store. Let's see, const user store. Let's instantiate it. Oh yeah, the computer's lagging. Let me see what I can close out. See, I don't have a ton open except for the things that we need, right? The screen recording, the audio recording, and obviously the code here. So in-app layout, where's the error? Oh, we're not using user store. So of course it's going to throw a fit. Let's say user store, and we will post a user. Now let's go to our user store real quick and see what we need. Oh, I really need to upgrade the computer. This thing is just tanking along, you know what I mean? But I've had this laptop for so long. I've produced so much material, whether it's software, whether it's album covers, whether it's music. This laptop has been one of those where it has just seen it all, you know what I mean? Seen it all. So let's see. So we have our user that looks like it's accepting a user ID, and we're dropping the payload off and sending that off to our backend. So let's put in some just dummy user IDs. I'll say date.now, and we will actually wrap that and say toString. Oh, I guess that works too. Let's see what the error is. User store. Oh, we meant to say post user, not user store. So this will just post a dummy date stamp for right now. That's what we want. And let's pop the user store over here. And what I want to do is go to the backend. Let's check out our users. I don't know if we even created that endpoint yet. Let's close all the folders, go to our pages/API. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. So let's go ahead and say user.ts. We're going to steal the model from here. Boom. So this includes all of our routers, all of this. Let's get task. This is just going to be get user. We don't need to include task status and all that stuff. And we'll rename this instead of get task. It'll actually just be users. And instead of get tasks, or I said that backwards, instead of that being task, it'll actually just be users. And then we'll rename the function. Instead of get task, it'll be get users. And similar thing here, we'll say instead of post task, it'll be post user. And let's delete anything else that's not being used. So it looks like we're going to, yes, we're still going to instantiate Prisma. I think we need to regenerate our contract a little bit. So let's try that out. Make sure our contract is fully up to date. And what we want to do here for get users, this function should, users, we need to adjust our error messages, it looks like, in our other files, but not a huge deal. So users not found. Okay, we have our router figured out. Boom. The post user is going to be the one that we want to look at. So all we're doing on the user, I guess in our Prisma schema, we can just pass in a user ID and ignore the rest of this. And let's just see what we can come up with, right? So let's, oh, oops, not npx. Let's npx. Let me get out of this shell. And let's just regenerate the contract. Prisma generate, boom, npm run dev. And all we want to do is simply just post a user ID into our Mongo database. That's it. Let's just start small. This way we don't have to build everything out. We can just simply send this to the backend and make it a simple process. So we don't need all of this. We don't need to create all this extra stuff. The task status, boom, boom, boom. We're going to have to figure out how to link that out in the end. But right now, we're actually just going to have a user ID. And the reason why we have all these errors is because this is still looking at the task. So let's go task.body. What we're passing in is actually going to be the user ID. And honestly, we could probably generate it here where we don't even need to pull it in from the body, but it's fine for now. We'll pass that in. And we need to change this instead of prisma.task. It needs to go prisma.user. And this is just naming convention at this point because it's a local function of just changing the task to user here and sending it over. Okay, let's check our database now. Let's console log this user ID, make sure everything's linked up. If we see the user ID in here, so in our console, when we press this create user button, it means that our front end is linked up proper and we don't have to check it. Because in order for it to go from the front end component to the task store, it would infer that all these things are linked up proper to get to the back end, right? So this is a cheap, easy way for us just to skip all those steps. Let's see, active, we'll say scale.90 and we'll say transition just to see us click it, or even scale 50, right? Something really, really, really small. So we could see us, boom. Should have clicked, but didn't. Let's see. I'm gonna check the database, see if we're posting users. We might be. Folks, I think we are. I think we are. Maybe not though. Same time, maybe not, because I don't think our store is actually linked up now that I think about it. Let's see. They might have just been users from the previous one. So let's see, post user. Yeah. Okay, there's no way we were posting users, guys. I got a little excited there. So let's go here, slash, we said API and user is going to be our endpoint because we're going to the API directory and then user. So let's try this out. Let's put our console somewhere. I'll pop it off to the screen to the left just so I can see if we have any Axios errors. And we'll see this server console, or I guess server technically. And let's click the create user. Boom. What happened? What happened? So we saw the button get clicked. We didn't see something console log here though. Let me refresh the users. I might want to drop this table just to flush the data real quick. Let's try that out. Boom. And because the other users, they had two IDs associated with them. So I didn't see what we wanted to see. Let's see if I update the database. One error. We have an error. Let's see. Yeah, we have a post error. Okay, so let's look into it a little bit. Console user ID. So it is getting passed in to here, which is great. But we have some sort of Prisma create user ID error. I wonder if it's because we're trying to. So there's going to be an ID generated, and it's going to be mapped to the Mongo database ID, the _/ID. And then we're passing a custom ID, if you will. So how do we do this in the task? Let's take a look over there. Post a task. Let's see. So we just pass in a task ID similar to this kind of format, right? Where we're just either generating it or passing it in. And it looks like we are just mapping that to, we don't do the database object ID. Okay, so maybe that was our error right there. Let's npx run generate. I really should make that one command where it just generates the Prisma contract, npm run Prisma or something, and then runs the dev also. Because we're software engineers, folks. We want to cut out steps where we can. That's exactly why, right? So let me think about how to do that, right? npx, we'll say Prisma. So we'll do, can this be npx Prisma, what was it? npx Prisma generate, right? And then we'll say npx run dev as well. Let's see if we can do that. So if we do npm run Prisma, I think we spelled it right. So npx Prisma generate, let's see. No, come on now. What was our command? npx Prisma, right? npx Prisma generate. I thought so. So Primza. We want Prisma generate and then npm run dev, right? Let's try one more time. npm run Prisma. This way we're just shaving off one extra step. I think that's gonna work. Okay, so boom, Prisma scheme is loaded, and then it's gonna hard coding URLs in your schema poses a security risk. Ah, I see. I've been exposed on how I handle the environmental issue. Yeah, so I'll deal with that in a moment, but not today, not right now. Let's get this post thing figured out. Let's go ahead and pop this in. So looks like we did have, let's see. We did get another timestamp, but we're getting an error. Oh, is it just this crypto thing? Oh, we saw it here. Okay, so that means we did get all the way to here. Let's see if, we did post a user. Nice, folks. And here's that user ID, which we saw right here, 16941 yada, 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 16941 yada, yada, yada. So we did get that post endpoint working. That's awesome. And let's do this. Let's generate the user ID on, well, no, actually, no, it won't be passed in because we're going to pull it from clerk ultimately. I want the clerk ID and the user ID that we store to be the same. So we are going to pass it in. We're not going to generate it from the backend like we do with task, right? Where we're generating a custom UUID. It'll still be a custom UUID, but we do want it associated to clerk. So what we can do is either overlap where we just have one user ID that is the clerk user ID and how we store it user ID. So we kind of use clerk as like a random key generator, or we could have the clerk generator and then also generate our own UUID, which would be like pretty secure because you could have to verify both, right? That even if someone somehow got the clerk credentials outside of the outside of this architecture, in order for them to get access to the account, they would, or at least all the account details, they would still have to get the custom user ID that we generate here. So that is an idea. I will talk with my trusty good pal Chester. He's a great friend of mine, genius engineer. But let's not cross that bridge today. That sounds like an appropriate security conversation with Chester. Let's cross the bridge of generating a username for the user. Let's cross the bridge of integrating an email from the user. And I hope we can get this all from Clerk, or at least one of these things from Clerk, like the email from Clerk as well, because that's a really quick sign up. And if we could just fire off a function on dashboard landing, like if it's the user's first time there, boom, fire it off, where it creates the user on our side of things. Then we can go from there. We could take that data and do what we want. So, but let's just start with the username. How about that? So good morning username, right? We want this associated to this user. Or I wonder if we could get the clerk ID, you know, one of the two. Obviously the username I think will be easy, but then how do we log back in as this user if we don't know which ID it is? So let's pop out of the task page. I'm going to go back to the dashboard page. We have our endpoint for getting the users. Looks like set users. Oh, we don't have users.push console. Oh, I see. Okay, we need to build some state here. So const users. How about this? Or set user. This is what it should be, but I think initially we're gonna have to do just a list of users because we're gonna be pushing so many IDs to this array. So set users, boom, right? We can get rid of this users. And I just want to show it on the front end so we can start handling that data how we want to, right? So let's go back here, user store. I could say user store dot users. Oops, users. So we can either push it or just set the response data. And I guess for now, if it's a string, it'll just come back as whatever user. But the problem we're going to be having is that every time we create a new user, we are going to have to deal with not having the ID associated to clerk yet. Because again, I do think that's something I want to handle behind the scenes a little bit. You know, because there could be some just wrestling with that, and I don't want to. I like the bits where we're kind of moving more so than doing, you know, multiple pass-throughs over bugs. I don't like that the most, even though I recognize that's a strong part of software engineering and the development lifecycle. But I don't want to do that all the time. You know, I want to be building new things, constructing new concepts, etc., etc. So let's see how far we can get from here. We're going to create all these users. We should be having access to them now, I believe. Let's see, const user store dot users. You can see us just lagging, right? So we're going to, let's see, set user response data. It should be coming back. Boom, here it is. Okay, so we have res.data. What is this error? Res.data. User stores dot. Okay, so we are getting the user, but we have all this extra jazz with it. I thought if we set res.data, response.data, right, we would be dealing with all this HTML jazz, right? So let's do the store. How do we do it here? Yeah, we set response.data. Oh, I see. We await it though, at least. Okay, so let's await it. Const response equals this. And we will do set users to response.data. That's what we will do. Boom. Okay, let's try that out. We actually don't need to return users here neither. That's actually something we don't need to do. We just need to set it to the response of this. I'm going to try one more time, response.data. So why is it coming back as this HTML tag again? Response.data. Oh, you want to know why? We're probably not going to the right direction. We're probably not going to the right spot. So just a tiny thing, simple thing, folks. Let's see if that handles our error a little bit. Looks like we got a successful fetch, but we don't. Okay, so we have our users.user ID. So let's map out our users. Looks like we built a lot of users. And we can say user.user ID. Boom. Hopefully we can see a user now. Let's see. Here's the error. It's probably going to be a key, maybe. No overload matches this call. So let's kind of build for this. We have a -1. Give me a sec. Oh, we don't want local compare. My bad. Didn't mean to do that. Let's go ahead and get the key again. Let's try this key. And the key will be the user ID. Okay, let's spell that proper. The good news is we do see it on the front end after the fetch. That's the good news, right? We do see it in our console. So that is proper. That means we're doing it right. Not sure. Empty string. It fetches. Boom, user ID. There we are. So what we even can do, just to keep it simple, pop this here, right? I believe say the 0th user ID. I think we can just do that, right? And it shows us on the screen, this is the user we're looking at. So user ID does not exist on type string. What about now if we declare it as a string? Looks like there's still some issues there. Oh, you know what? It could also be how we're storing it from the Prisma client where we're doing this. We might want to just say, what is it? I think string user ID. Just that way it stores everything as a string. So let's go ahead and drop the table. It should be coming in as a string, but just to make sure it's stringified. And then user ID does not exist on type string. So let's go to our user store as well. User ID does not exist on type string. Let's see, as string, maybe that'll handle the error. Sorry guys, we are lagging. Don't like this error. But the good news is we do have a user. So let's now populate a name for this user. So you see how it says good morning username. This is going to be, we'll say our user ID. I'll pop that here. Let's go ahead and put user name. We don't have that yet. And let me just build it out on the front end here. And I know this is all on our page, which I don't want to actually handle all the data handling in the page. We're just quickly drafting, putting what's it called? Paint on the canvas right now. So what I actually want to do, if I don't have the user's name and I can't pull it from clerk, I just want to have a function here that like has an input. We had it in the earlier episodes that lets a user put in their username. So let's kind of build for that. I'll just build a quick input, quick and dirty here. And we'll say value equals username, which doesn't exist yet. And I'll build that state in a second. On change, we want event here, and we'll set username to e.target.value. And that is going to give us our user's name. So let me go ahead and pull that state in now. We'll say const username. You guys are seeing the lag like crazy. And we'll say use state, boom, bada bing. We don't have it pulled in, so that's why we have a red underline. I'm gonna pop it in right there. And I'll declare it as a string. And all we're gonna do is just take this input. We're also gonna have a button that says, instead of create user, it'll be like update username or something like that, right? So it'll be create, how about create username? That's fine. So it's just going to be a button right here, right underneath it. It should pop up here any moment now. Boom, there it is, create username. I know it doesn't look like a button, it just looks like a string text, but it is a button. It is a button. These both are buttons. So I'll make them really ugly right now. Let's say background red 500, rounded 80 pixels, right? P4, they'll be just big red annoying buttons for right now, but at least we can see them, right? They're big old red, just in your face, boom. And let's get this functionality working where we can post a username to this user's account. So what we need is going to be not post user, but it's actually going to be a new endpoint that we need to configure. Let's go ahead and close everything. So pages.api. We want to build a folder called user or even username, depending on how granular and how many more of these we're going to add. For now, I guess we'll just do user. And I still need to look into this, but we want user ID as our parameter. So I'll put it here, I believe. And let's just look at the task query. Let's steal this. We're going to go to our user ID. We won't even have an update function quite yet, or even delete. Let's keep that out of the user's hand. Or I guess they could delete their own account. That's fine. But we will do that in a moment. Let's just do this post request. And what this post request is going to do, it doesn't need to update. It needs to post username. And what we're going to get is going to be the username. This is a lot of stuff from our, obviously we have atomic functions going on to update tasks. Let's get rid of all that noise. Let's ultimately get rid of this as well. And what we're going to end up sending is just the user. Say an error occurred while creating the user name. And maybe we don't want to be as this granular by like saying you need to edit your age, you need to edit your name. Maybe we'll have a update user function altogether. But so I guess it could be an update request. Yeah, okay, that probably makes more sense. Instead of having each individual thing be its own thing, let's just make it a put request. Let's do that then. Forgive me, guys. Update task, we'll say update user. Sometimes that happens, mid thought, you're like going down a path and you're like, wait, that's actually wrong. That's probably not the easiest way to do it. So let's go ahead and figure out how we want to update this user. We're going to get a user ID in the parameter. The query is what it's called for Next.js. This would be equivalent to your rec.params. And then we want, what else? We're going to pass in a username. Oh, and this needs to actually be an object. And this is going to come from the body. So we want const user equals await Prisma. We want to do user, and I believe, how do we want to update them? Let's see. Let's actually go to task ID. I need to see how we did it here. Update task. Oh, it's just update. Okay. So we want to find the task ID, it looks like. Boom. So we'll say update and boom, where task ID, but we want user ID. So we're going to pass in the user ID to discover it. Say this is the user we want with ID 1694, yada, yada, yada. And then I believe we want to update the data by saying username, do this, do that, right? So let's, let me get rid of this delete column for right now. I think that's kind of all we need. Error while updating the user. Let's start with that. Let's see if we can get this payload. Oh, and one other thing we need to do is make sure it's in our Prisma schema. We do have it. Awesome. So let's npm run Prisma. Make sure our contract is up to date. And I forgot we added the run dev command, which is just epic. Awesome. So let's go to our store now, and our user store. And we're going to post user. We're going to have an update user as well. Update user. And the endpoint changes because we're passing in the user ID. And we're also not going to use a post request. This is going to be a put request now. And the endpoint goes something like this, right? We're going to pass in, we can actually pass it in right here and say the user ID. So that's what our endpoint is going to look like. We want to say post user, get user, update user. Yeah, we'll organize them like that. That looks about appropriate. Okay. And with our create username, how about we change it to update username just for now? And it's not going to be date.now.string. It's going to be username, which is this value from our input. So it's going to be undefined, it looks like. What if we just declare it as string? Let's see, folks. Let's see. I think that's almost everything. So let's see. Test. I think the text is white is why we're not seeing the test here. So if I say, let's see this, we'll say text black. Should be able to see this update. Yeah, it's there, right there. So text black should be there. Should update the DOM here, but it's not. It's not liking it. All right. Let's see. Let's see what we're working with, folks. So similar thing. I want to just console log both the username that's getting passed into our body, and I suppose the user ID as well. If we see both of these, that means we are working, right? Not this. Sorry, we are also lagging while we're trying to work, But again, if we see all this work, it means everything's linked up proper. Our user store is linked up. Our everything should be on par, right? Everything should be working, right? So let's also pop over to our user thing. I think we had a console log there. So if we get users, oh, we removed it. Okay, great. I just didn't want to see that from the other one. So when we press this button, it should find the user and then fire off an updated name, I believe. Let's also drop the table because we have a old collection, so the data might not be updating. Let's just prep for that. Boom. We're going to drop the table. Oh, that's the music I'm listening to right now. I meant to grab this. Let's see. Boom. So this is what I meant to grab. And let's, because if we create a user, boom, it should fire that off. We should see that pop back down. So we have this user now. Oh, but you know what? That's going to be the wrong user ID. So we need to figure out. Let's see if I refresh, if the user ID updates. Okay, it does. Awesome. So that's the new user ID. I believe. Yep, 741 at the end if you see 741. And we actually need to pass this into our update user function as well. Update user, I realize, needs not only its ID, but also the name that we're passing in. So I forgot that bit. So we need user name, and that needs to go on the payload instead of user ID. We kind of missed that for a second. So the payload is username. That's the body. The parameter is going to be the user ID. So it's going to throw an error on our page because we don't have two arguments. We just have one. We just have the user ID coming in. So we need to put this user ID. This is the user we want to update. Let's try this. Boom. And that's the username. So I don't like this as some sort of error here. I don't know why it's not going away. User ID, property user ID does not exist on type string. Why is that? Oh, you know why? Duh, we're not using our types, our Prisma types. So if we import user from Prisma client, this is why we generated all this for the front end to always be contractually proper with the back end, right? So why we made it a mono repo, or part of the reason why, was because we can generate the contracts with Prisma and then not have to worry about all this. Now we're getting another error here. Users.userStore is possibly undefined. If we declare this as a string or as user, would that work? Let's see, import user from Prisma client specifically. Let's see if that handles it. No. Okay. Let's see, why is it doing that? So user store dot users is possibly undefined. So if we go to our user store, and if we don't make it undefined, if we just do this, or an array, right? Say an array of users, should always be something. Ah, perfect. Okay, so that's our error now. Let's make sure we are still all typed out, looking proper. And I think we might be good to fire this function off. I think it's all wired up proper. Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? User ID. Okay, we're not getting the right. Oh, we are. There we are. Okay, so we'll say new name, and let's fire it off. Let's see what happens. So boom, new name comes to the backend. That's how we know all the front end is linked up proper. How we know the front end is speaking to the store proper and the store is speaking to the API proper. Let's refresh, and I see it in the database, folks. We just one and done, almost one and done. I won't take that credit, but we almost one and done that. That was amazing. So we should see it pop up here now as username. We're not seeing that. Maybe I'm not pulling it in proper. Let's see, update user. Oh, duh, because I'm not pulling the data in at any point. So let's pop that in right here and say user ID is actually username. So we should see it, new name. And that is going to be the start of our user profile. So this is pretty exciting because what we're going to end up doing is saying this name. And let's change it to my name. Pags or Ryan is my first name. Let's see if that worked. Let's fire off the function. Pags, let's see, update, boom. So this will be my account, right? And we're going to associate this user ID with all of these tasks and task statuses and even a team or something. We'll have to think about the team component in a sec, but let's just focus on the users, I guess. If I could pull up Lucid chart, we'll kind of wrap up the episode now. So because this is a good, I feel productive. I feel like we got a lot done on this one. And it feels like an appropriate stopping point. But this whole object, if you will, what we're seeing in document or in our MongoDB document storage, this is going to be the start of our user account where we're going to add all these other things, an image. You know, we might want to look into a pre-signed URL for an S3 bucket to store all of our profile images. Reason is I don't want to render a user button, let's say on this for like 50 different times, or let's say we have different tasks on a team. Like maybe we change this component to my team's task and I have an image, my teammate has an image, the next teammate has an image. I don't want to render all the user buttons from Clerk. That's a lot of data, that's intensive. So it makes a lot more sense to build a lightweight system that just fetches a URL from like a pre-signed URL in an S3 bucket, and then boom, we'll just show it right there. And yeah, so and the good news is Chester has those answers. He actually built that for a project we're working on. But this is roughly the structure that we kind of now have, right? Where tasks kind of have these additional things around it. We have like task statuses, but in our mind, it's all tasks that are going to be associated with this, right? We have like task column. We're kind of just like measuring the, we have all these other things in like task. I think it's task columns and then task columns toggled, right? Task column toggled. Oh, maybe call it TCT, right? The TCT, task column toggled. That's kind of cool. So that's all bundled up inside of task, right? We have all of this, boom, kind of with the data of task, and that's going to be all of these task column toggled array, the task statuses. But I want our structure to kind of be built out in a more simplistic way. I don't want to, think about task over here with users. It's just users, they're associated to all this stuff. You know what I mean? So, and then likewise, we'll have projects with teams and sub-users and all that stuff, and maybe a owner of the project, and that'll be like the projects bit. So there end up being more data to each thing, right? But we in our heads we can just see it as this, right? As task. That's what this is. It's just our task kind of data area. And hopefully all these atomic functions, everything updates and handles itself there. Then likewise with the users, we're gonna have, sounds like maybe a potential pre-signed URL, sounds like maybe some functions to fetch from Clerk and see what we can do with that, see what data we can pull from there. But this is our rough structure now, is kind of this right now. And let's, I guess, pop this in here, right? So we have, I guess technically, we can remove the Nginx deal, the Nginx bit, right? Or figure out where that kind of needs to go, right? But roughly, that's what we're looking at. And boom. So we stayed true to our kind of original structure, and all of this is going to be containerized within Docker, right? All of our stuff will be Dockerized, or we'll use AWS's Elastic Container Service. But let's just think about it in a way a little more simple, right? Where we can build out the rest of the application how it needs to be built out. And I think that's what we're integrating now, is kind of this relationship. So I'm going to make this black because we are kind of almost wrapped up with task. I think that's about done. We are initiating the users. So maybe I'll make this a green line. And the red means we haven't done it yet, but we need to do this because this needs to be linked up and related. And then maybe we'll also make this green as it's kind of being pieced together already. So, and Nginx, I think their whole thing is green, so it's convenient. But yeah, guys, successful episode. We got this new users object, and again, building like a user email, building out the other things we're going to need associated with the user are just a matter of generating more of those things. So I have to go to the restroom though as well, taking these long hiatuses to build episodes and just write software straight does take its toll. But that's our functionality to build our user object. Now we are going to have to tweak it. We are going to have to refine a few things and then ultimately connect it to our task. So then we can see, so then maybe I'll have 2 emails and we can check, hey, I can log in with this one. I should see different task. And then I should log in with this email and see different task. And if that's successful, then we can kind of check this box off as like 80% polished or getting there. So maybe we can reinstantiate our Kanban page and kind of utilize it like we did in the earlier episodes. The problem I had then was just every time we made a change, we had to drop the columns, or drop all the data. So a little hesitant on it, but we'll go ahead and at least just kind of start. So we do have some bugs actually. Well, good to know. I'll handle all these bugs behind the scenes. But yeah, I would say successful episode overall. Thank you guys for watching again the Code Chronicles. I am looking forward to the next episode. I've been waiting to integrate the users. The fact that we got there today, that's a win. That's a W, folks. That's a W. So thank you a ton. I appreciate you guys. Cheers.